Okay, so today we're going to be doing a disassembly of an HP 17-G122DS. This is a 17-inch laptop. This specific one is red. It's in the Pavilion series. It's got a nice Pentium processor in there. And if I flip it over and take the battery out, I can show you the exact model number there. So hopefully if I can focus in on that, you should be able to see that there. If I just let it focus, you can see the model number right up there. So in this video we're just going to do a disassembly. So if you have to replace any component in this laptop, hard drive, RAM, pretty much anything, if you need to get inside of the laptop, this is going to be the video that you should use. So first thing we want to do is take out the battery. So that's pretty simple. If you don't know, you can just slide these two little sliders inward, and that will push the battery out, and then you can simply just lift up and take the battery straight out. We're going to remove any external USB things that the customer has plugged in. So we have a little USB sender here, which is probably used for a wireless mouse. So we're going to unplug that, put that off to the side, make sure that we remember that. And we're going to want to grab our screwdriver. We use an iFixit kit here. There's a 64-bit driver set, and we're going to use a Phillips 0-bit. And we are going to start taking out the bottom screws. And for organizing your screws, we like to use a screw organizer mat. This is also from iFixit. It's a magnetic mat, so I can put some screws on there, and I can tip this sideways, or this can fall over, and it will hold the screws on there, or anything magnetic, so, or anything that can go on a magnetic pad. So now that we have the laptop, we're upside down. We're just going to start removing the bottom screws. That's going to be the first step. And so we're going to start with the CD-ROM, DVD-ROM drive, which is this screw down here. And I'm going to put that in with the DVD screws. And now I can pull this DVD drive out. Use your fingernail in between, or if you have a pry tool or something like that. Sometimes a guitar pick can work well too. Pry under there, underneath the bezel, and you should be able to pull the drive right out, just like that. So this model, ironically, doesn't have any screws underneath the bezel, but as you can see, there's screw holes. So some models have screws underneath the DVD drive. This one actually doesn't, but it does have the holes for it, but there are no screw posts, so we can ignore that for now. And now we'll just start taking out all the bottom screws. So there's actually quite a few here. We have two there, another two here, another two here, another two there, and another two there. So, and I believe actually we're going to end up with one underneath one of these sticky tabs, but we'll see that in a second. So we'll just start removing all these bottom screws. Pay attention to the sizes on here. I believe they're all the same size, but always keep an eye out in case one is smaller than the other, so you don't end up putting a longer screw in a shorter hole and then cause damage to the board or the plastics or something along those lines. So I'm going to take all those screws and put them in with the bottom screws and continue removing all the bottom screws one by one, like so. Like I said, there's quite a few on this laptop, so it might be a little bit tedious to do it. Eventually we should be able to get all of them out and onto our tray. So we also have some screws that are underneath where the battery normally is, so those will have to be taken out. These are labeled. These are M2.5 by 6.5 millimeter screws, which is nice. And I can put that in with the battery screws. And at this point now we can start taking off the hinge covers and the hinge screws. So I'll take these two hinge screws out. We have one on each side. Hinge screw there. We have another hinge screw on this side, like so. And then we do have these two screws here for the hinge covers. Those will also need to come out. Throw those off to the side. And those can come out just like that. Now, with that being said, we can take off the hinge covers themselves on both sides. For this, we like to use a guitar pick. If you have any sort of pry tool, plastic pry tool, credit card, anything like that, that should probably be fine. And for this, we're just going to wedge the guitar pick in between the plastic here, between the red and the black, and then just simply pry up. And just like that, we should be able to get these hinge covers off, just like that. And we have one on this side too. If we just pry up a little bit, we should be able to lift these hinge covers straight out, like so. Now you can see that's exposed some more screws on the underside. These are also hinge screws, so and these are the same 2.5 by 6.5 millimeter screws, which were the same that were used for the battery actually. So we can just take those out. There's two on each side of the hinge there. We're going to need to remove those to get into the laptop. And just like that, we have, I believe, all of the screws out that we need to get out. I'm going to check, sometimes they do have screws underneath there. So I'm just going to check that really quickly to see if we have anything underneath, and we do. So underneath this little plastic tape here, let's try to zoom in so you can hopefully see that a little bit better. There was a piece of plastic adhesive underneath this little screw, so you just want to make sure that you lift up that and then take that screw out also. Back over to the Phillips bit, and we can start taking that out and put that off with the bottom screws. I'll also check on the other side just in case we have one over here as well. And for this, I just use a screwdriver, kind of pry up that plastic, and we do also have one under here. So that will also need to come out. Take that out, put that off to the side as well. So now we have all the bottom screws out that we need, and now we can start prying the bottom and top plastics to get the bottom off. So for this, I'm going to open the laptop just very slightly here, like so, and I'm going to basically pry in between right here where the silver part meets the red. So I'm just going to stick my guitar pick in there, and I already heard a clip latch, and you're just going to stick it in not very far, maybe like 1/8 of an inch or so, and just work your way along the edges there and kind of push it in, and you should hear some of these clips start to separate as I go down. And that is separating the bottom plastic from the top plastic, which is what we want in order to be able to gain access to the important components. So I'm just going to work my way around the laptop, and I should slowly start hearing clips start to unlatch, like so. Just like that. Some of them are a little bit more tough than others, so don't be alarmed if you have to use a little bit of force, but you can see now that the laptop is starting to come apart as we want. And now I can flip the laptop over, like so, like I was going to use, as if I was going to use it, and use the same pry tool in between the red and the silver part up at the top here. We'll just work our way along the edge like we have already been doing, and continue trying to separate the plastics there. Now with that being said, I'm going to close the laptop, flip it back over, and try to remove the bottom. So I'm just going to slowly lift up both sides, and you should hear more of those clips start to separate. And like that, we can push this outward, and we should be able to lift the bottom of the laptop right off, just like so. So now we have access to the hard drive, we have access to the memory, we have access to the Ethernet and SD card I/O board, with some USBs on the side actually also. You have access to the real-time clock battery, access to the little battery breakout board there, the speakers, wireless card. This one is actually passively cooled, so there is no fan, but we do have this little heatsink here, so you have the heatsink if you need to apply new thermal paste or something like that. And that is pretty simple. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to take out the hard drive. So to take out the hard drive, pretty simple process. It doesn't appear that there are any screws holding the hard drive in. So just use your finger to lever up the hard drive like so. You can pull it straight out, and this is the connector for it. So you want to lift up that black tab down there. Try to zoom in so you can see. Just lift up that little black tab, and you should be able to pull the connector straight outwards like so. And now the hard drive is out. Memory also pretty similar. We can just push these two latches apart and then replace the memory if we needed to do that. It comes with one 8 gig stick. Looks like we also only have one slot, so if you plan to upgrade this RAM, I believe 16 gigs is going to be the maximum that you can put in here with a single stick. But with that being said, that is pretty much how to remove the hard drive. And then we can start removing the motherboard as well if you need to see that, or if you need to do that job. And for that, we're going to have to take out all of these flex connectors between the different components of the board. So for this, we'll start out with what I believe to be the trackpad, which is this one down here. Same thing, lift up the black lever, and you can pull that straight out. This is for the keyboard backlight. Same thing, lift up the lever, this time it's white, and pull that out. We have this one here for the keyboard, pull that out. We have this one up here for the DVD drive. You can lift up that lever, pull that straight out. Up here we have for the screen, so we can pull up on that lever and pull the screen connector out. We have this right here for what appears to be the charging jack. So I can pull that out like so. This one also goes straight out, but there's no latch, so you just have to pull straight out. And then this is for the battery. So same thing with the jack. You just use your nail and just pull that straight out like so. Right here we have the speakers. Same thing. Just pull straight out. These speaker ones can often be a little bit of a pain, so you might have to use a little bit of force or some sort of tool to actually pry in there. But you should be able to get that out if you just wiggle it. Just like that. And now the speaker wire's out. We also have an antenna here for the wireless card. That you're just going to want to lift straight up. That should pull that right out. And now we've disconnected everything other than this cable here. This actually goes underneath the board, so we'll need to keep that in mind when we take the motherboard out. But everything that we can get access to in terms of connections, we have disconnected. So now we can start taking out the motherboard screws. We have one down here, we have one over here, one over here. These will also need to come out that hold the passive heatsink down, and we also have one screw up here. Good news about these screws is that they sort of have labels. They have these little arrows pointing to the screw holes where a screw should be. And just keep in mind that although this one has one, this actually doesn't have a screw in it, so we can ignore that one. But anyway, we'll just start removing some of the motherboard screws, like so. And I'll put those off to the side. Like that. Remove these motherboard screws. And I believe, like I said, we're going to have to remove that heatsink screw. Put that in with our heatsink screws. And now we should see that the motherboard is actually loose. And so now, let me just make sure. Actually, we do have another heatsink screw up here that I didn't see immediately. So that's going to have to come out as well. That in with the heatsink screws, and now at this point we should be able to kind of hinge the motherboard out. Again, we have this connector that's plugged in underneath, so you're going to want to lift up the board and flip it towards this way, and now you can gain access to this connector, which again is just a flex connector, so that tab pulls up like so, and then the connector pulls straight out. And now you have the motherboard removed from the laptop. We can put this off to the side. If you need to replace this I/O board, this one's pretty simple. 2 screws and this whole thing comes out. I believe this is the power button. Again, 2 screws and this should just come right out. Speakers, this is actually held in with a screw and a rubber grommet, so this 1 screw and that'll pull right out as well. Other than that, really there's not much else that you can replace. Of course you can replace the screen, but that is just as simple as these 2 hinge screws here and these two hinge screws here, and then the screen will just lift out of the case, the top case assembly. So with that being said, that's pretty much the whole disassembly process. If this video has helped you, please feel free to subscribe. If you want to leave any comments, if you have any questions, if you're having an issue with this laptop or something similar, feel free to leave a comment in our comment section and we will be happy to answer it. To put everything back together, naturally you can watch this video and do the steps in reverse, and you can put everything back together. So thanks for watching, hope this helped, and we'll have some more videos coming soon.